Hello and welcome everybody, I'm OneProudBavarian and today we have a Crusader Kings III dev diary about the upcoming Roads to Power, the major expansion coming this year that is related to landless gameplay, that is related to the Byzantine Empire, and today we're going to learn about the administrative government. Now I want to say that this is not a condensed video, we're going to go through every single aspect here. I've marked them, I will keep it very short when it comes to actually reading the text, and once a section is over I will let you know what I think. Now, I will also add that, they say it here themselves, obviously there is a lot of work in progress, they are going to change certain values, so I will not get hung up on these elements either. I hope that you won't either. We're looking at a situation where I mostly want to discuss the general, the vague concepts with you, because there is a lot to like and, in my opinion, also a lot to dislike, and I would like to talk about that for sure. The one thing that really has to be pointed out, I think, with Roads to Power is that next to what came out with Legacy of Persia, because they did rework the clan government right there, they added, for example, the tax collectors, they added the house unity and so on. This is the very first, more system-oriented kind of content that is coming for Crusader Kings III, which makes it all the more important to really evaluate what is happening here, and which is also the main point of why I am relatively unhappy with what is coming here. So with all that being said, let's just hop into this. I think there are also, of course, a bunch of upsides here, but in general I would like to have a lively discussion as always, especially about the stuff that I personally don't like all that much. Now, let's talk about the administrative government. Again, this is just part 1, part 2 is coming next week. First things first, administrative, or admin for short, is a new government type that draws a lot of inspiration specifically from the Byzantine Empire. While Byzantium isn't the only inspiration, it is by far the most significant. Just like the historical inspiration, an administrative realm is all about the empire itself. You have the emperor situated neatly at the top, with the many governors and noble families serving underneath. Regardless of their motives or actions, they serve the empire first and foremost, for a prosperous realm is much more worthwhile to be in. Right here, we already see the interface. Let's quickly analyze this. You can already see we have a new currency. It is all the way up there called influence. We're going to learn about this in this dev diary, at least partially as well. This is the administrative government. You can see we have a state faith, which is quite impressive because, yes, I mean, there are so many aspects here, of course, that are quite unique to the Byzantines, although it existed in other areas as well. The Abbasids come up very early on. The Carolingians were very much also run in, well, this administrative style. I don't really want to put them together because they are so far apart, and administrative changes throughout history as well, of course. You got China and so on and so forth. Many states that really were states rather than just interpersonal hegemonies where the king was the king because he had allegiances that were sworn to him on a very personal rather than a systemic level. So we got the state faith right here, which again is quite unique. Then we have these themes. So themes are titles that aren't inheritable, they are not hereditary, they are something given out to govern, and that is all you do there. This is not your fiefdom, they go into this themselves later as well, but it is already interesting to point out. Now I do want to say, we can say that this is the estate. I assume, yep, that is the Dukas dynasty, if I'm not mistaken here. This is their estate. More on that as well as we go. I do like this new outfit, I think that looks great. We have the estate button right there, take a look at that. Now, anyway, the other interesting thing with these themes is that we can already see a couple of details. This right here to me looks as though it signifies the competence of the governor. So this is a good governor, these are pretty bad governors. This right here seems to be the type of theme. I mostly put this here to Ephesus. And don't let me, yeah, there you are, this is Ephesus. This is a naval theme, which is important because, yes, they were organizing their realm on a purely administrative, hey, what exactly do we need in this location? And from this location, we have the naval themes mostly here in these particular areas, and this right there is one of them. I don't think we can see the other one. I forgot the name. Is it like Subarethio? I can't pronounce any of this. My apologies. Anyway, this seems to be a naval theme. I think this might be like, it looks like an army theme, maybe. It looks like a military banner, right? Right here we have basically a border theme, I would guess. We already have this on the feudal and clan level as well. You can make people into borderlands, and this right there into marches. And this right here seems to be roughly that role. Then down here we have Vidin, which is a feudal duchy. More on that as well. I have a lot of thoughts and worries in that regard. And I think the standard type then, oh, this also kind of looks like mercenaries, maybe military. I don't know what the purple one is at this point. Philippopolis is up here. so in southern Bulgaria. And then right here, this seems to be the standard. We see both a building and a helmet. Not sure exactly what it means. I'm also not exactly sure what it means when we have a red kind of sigil here, and then over there a green one. I thought originally maybe the green one indicates, hey, this is your dynasty, because this is Dukas, this is Dukas, 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 but they don't all have red or green, so I'm not entirely sure what it means. Hey, be that as it may, this is everything I think that we can glean from this interface right here. This realm runs on a completely different setup because it is not entirely based on personal allegiances, rather it is based on a system. There is something that we could already call a state. Very, very interesting for sure. The Emperor is the ultimate authority of the realm. It is the Emperor who creates new governorships and appoints the governor of a theme. The pool of available candidates can be vast, and the Emperor will have to consider if they want to appoint their troublesome nephew or to keep as much power as possible within his own family, or if a member of another noble family would be a better choice. Just as the Emperor manages the overall structure of the empire, so too does he support and supervise his governors. He can lend them troops if needed. Very interesting. It looks like, and we're only going to learn about this next week, so I'm not going to comment on this for too much, but it looks like military has been changed, which obviously it needs to. In CK2, the Byzantine DLC created what we now know as men-at-arms. Back then it was the retinue. This was a feature designed for this. Now, we already have men-at-arms, but clearly a standing army, you know, a routine kind of that already exists when we go to war that is different from planning a levy-based campaign. That seems to be something in here that the Emperor can also kind of give back by lending troops. Very interesting. We're going to learn more about that next week. The Emperor can also have them go to war on his behalf and reward them when they are performing well to be in their good graces. The power of an administrative realm is very much intended to ebb and flow. When the empire is well managed, it runs smoothly like a well-oiled machine, able to beat down its opponents with ease, and when mismanaged, however, it becomes significantly weaker, unable to defend itself against opportunistic conquerors looming on its doorstep. Expect a playstyle, very important now, where wars give way to schemes, intrigue, and good old-fashioned politics. Internal wars between vassals are practically non-existent, as your primary way of expanding within the realm will be to make efficient use of schemes and leverage your influence as you jockey for governorships and other influential positions. Governors are unable to create or join independence and dissolution factions, making administrative realms excel as large and sprawling empires. While they are significantly less likely to collapse or break apart, succession is a much riskier business. Claimants won't sit idly by, while the empire's fate lies in the hands of an inept emperor. The Byzantine Empire will play significantly differently from how you are used to playing the game. You would normally gain titles through proven means, such as wars or marriage. But to gain lands and extend your power in an administrative realm, you will have to engage in politics. You will scheme against your rivals, leverage hooks against your peers, and make use of your influence to sway the emperor to your side. To reinforce this new playstyle, schemes have been updated to be more engaging, and we have a new scheme type available only within administrative realms: political schemes. There are several new schemes of this type, as well as a swath of new interactions that will help you manage the realm, interact with your liege, your vassals, and your peers. Ultimately, these are all tools with which you can leverage your influence to shape the realm to your will. We will go more into depth into these throughout this dev diary. Byzantium is the main focus of the expansion and will be the only realm that will have administrative on game start, trading a lot of conventional gameplay in exchange for new and powerful tools, at the cost of increased micromanagement and a less secure succession. Any feudal or clan ruler can strive to surpass Byzantium and attempt to adopt this new government type if they so choose, but more on that later. This right here brings me to a very fundamental concern, worry, no, basically just fundamental negativity that I personally have as I was reading this. It's true that the Eastern Roman Empire is unique in this particular period, that it through and through is a nation, well, not, sorry, very, very wrong words, that is not a nation state, but it has a state. There already is a greater character to this that was essentially lost in the period of feudalism, right, where we're looking at very interpersonal relationships. The hierarchies are built based on who you owe allegiance to and what that actually means, because obviously that changed dramatically throughout the ages. Feudalism in the year 900 isn't the same as feudalism in the year 1300, which is also why everybody kind of hates that term in academia. But the point being, this needs to be a very different experience. I can appreciate this, right? what I really, really hate is the fact that this is its own separate government. The idea that feudalism and administrative gameplay, or well, gameplay, that these forms of government are completely unique and separate from one another is completely wrong. When we take a look at the Carolingian Empire, for example, when we look at the Franks right there, we also have governorships. Those were not hereditary. We had other hereditary regions, and in particular here we're looking towards Germany, where we had the Bavarians, the Swabians, the Franconians, we had the Saxons, and they were tribes. They very clearly defined, I live here, I rule here, this is the way things are. But for example, in the Frankish territory, that wasn't the case. In certain other areas of the world, we're looking, for example, at the Caliphate, and so on, that is also how that was run. This is not unique. It's just that as central authority, as the state deteriorated over time, and it became more and more a jungle of personal relationships, this whole idea drifted away, and all of a sudden, well, you know, inheritance was a lot more common. Separating the way they're doing it here, where this is the administrative government, and this is the feudal government, they do not overlap, this is just the way things are. And you're going to see this, it goes even further, because as a feudal ruler, you won't even have access to the primary resource that comes with administrative gameplay. I think it's the completely wrong way. Basically, it's the way that it was in CK2, and I was very cool, and I definitely, I was hoping that it would turn out differently effectively, but I was very cool with administrative, I don't even know what it was called. Was it called bureaucratic? Was it called administrative? I can't recall. But we had a particular government style there as well, of course, in CK2. It sucked. It was really bad. I played so often in Rome for the achievements, you know, back when I was doing the 100% CK2 achievement stuff. And I'm going to be honest with you, I really hated it. I was like, rip that out and then bring in, for example, modular governments. Because again, to move from feudalism to administrative isn't a one-off process. It is not a process that just happens without you being aware of it. It is a certain centralization of power. There is a certain aspect, a certain element of, you know, a state being created in there. And that is just not the case if you separate these fully. If you say, hey, these are two completely different alleys. The same is, of course, true for feudalism and clan governorship. People weren't actually that... It just doesn't work that way. Basically, what I'm saying is, with what they are presenting here, I like that they, of course, go, yes, this is different, this has to be different, yada, 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 but I'm very disappointed, and this is now final. I don't think there's any hope that what I wanted CK3 to do here, that is actually going to come through in the next few years. I don't think we're ever going to see modular governments. I don't think CK3 is going to do it. I wish that they did. This is why I was in favor. Hey, merchant republics. Yeah, okay, they are merchant republics, but ultimately they were also founded just in an urban environment, but they were also nobility. They were noble families that were vying for the authority of ruling the duchy. Venice in particular has, of course, a very spotty history where from time to time they had a foreign dux, you know, so a ruler from Constantinople that was sent there to govern it, and then eventually they were granted a greater right, and from that, the republic emerged. That is a fluid process. This is clearly not something that is going to be viable, that is going to be in this here, and I really just want to lament it because I think we're now past the threshold where I can keep the hope that we will see modular government form. I even complained about this in the thread. That is how much this kind of triggers me, okay? The initial indicator for me where I was like, okay, I don't think we're ever going to see modular governments was already League of Persia, Legacy of Persia. Because the clan government, as interesting as it is, and in certain areas it also falls flat on its nose, it's completely separate. It has nothing in common. You can never have a tax collector unless you're clan, which doesn't really make sense. Why wouldn't you run this if you, for example, take over new territory? Why wouldn't you run this in a fashion where you just accept the local form of governments? That is how that worked. Anyway, this rant aside, the way they now implement it, I'm already fundamentally unhappy with. I really want to make this clear. I think this is not the right way to do it. This is basically just CK2 plus rather than a further development of what it means to have a government, a state, governance, personal allegiances, and so on. The other thing that is really... It's going to be difficult. They clearly have it on the radar, which is great news, but I think this is going to be deeply, deeply difficult to approach, is the fact that they correctly go, okay, if you are a governor, obviously, it doesn't really make sense for you to go conquer Anatolia, then you're the king, and all of a sudden, that's it. That's not how that works, right? These governorships, you cannot spread them that way. It doesn't really function in that manner. So, obviously, it's good that they know this, that they acknowledge this, that they go in that direction. What really worries me is that they are saying this here, internal wars between vassals are practically non-existent. It makes sense, it's very coherent with what I just said as well, but wars are fun. This is a fundamental lesson. Listen, we have to go through this, okay? If I want to expand, yes, there is the way through marriage, but let's be real here. If I do through marriage, I'm really only doing it so that I can then press a claim in war. You know, it's the very easy path to do it. And not having really any wars internally is something that you very rarely have in current gameplay. The scheme rework that they talk about here has to stick the landing. This is like the primordial worry that I have right now, because they're clearly saying, okay, so normally you do it through marriage, you do it through wars, you maybe go and create a title that then allows you to wage easier wars, right? De jure wars and all that kind of stuff. That is gone. That is completely cooked, right? Which means the new gameplay loop has to work without those things. I really hope, so I already start really negatively into this because I'm like, this is not what I hoped CK3 governments would eventually be doing. I really hope they would be modular and more fluid and so on and so forth. But on top of that, I'm like, you are now doing a government that really goes against everything that you are doing with your core mechanics, with the mechanics that everybody plays with and likes. The scheme rework, they're not going into any greater detail, but I really want to bring up those two things, how I feel about the government as a whole, and then that scheme rework really needs to stick the landing. As the most, common and satisfying ways are gone, a scheme has to basically now fill the same niche of satisfaction when I win a war, when I press the enemy surrender, and force demands. When I press that button, that same satisfaction has to now occur. When I initiate a battle, when my army walks into another army, that same satisfaction has to now stem from the schemes. And I would really just urge you to keep an eye on this. Again, they don't go into the details of the schemes here in this particular dev diary, but it's super important because, in my opinion, that is going to make or break whether this will actually be fun. Now, let's move on. These are just my two takeaways. I'm really, really worried about this, and I'm just kind of deflated because I don't think my hope for CK3 governments is ever going to happen in CK3. See you in 2034 for that in CK4. Okay, cynicism aside, let's talk about noble families. Those make, of course, the realm up. They existed again elsewhere as well, and I think putting them into a prominent role is going to be very important as well. As the head of a noble family, it is your prerogative to garner power in the form of securing appointments and positions for your house members, improving the family estate, and undercutting any political rivals that would challenge your name. Directly owning landed titles on the map is not a requirement for rulers within administrative realms. Super important and super cool. In CK2 in this government, that didn't really work that way. You were always in a position where you really needed to ensure that you would inherit your theme, because worst comes worst, you just game over, or alternatively you're stuck as a count where you can basically do nothing. The fact that I can just lose my theme and I'll be okay, I'll survive, I think that is a huge boon here. They really identified the big issue, I think, in CK2 that made CK2 Imperial gameplay very, very boring, or very nasty, I should say. But yeah, directly owning landed titles on the map is not a requirement. If you are appointed to a title and any corresponding counties, you are there to do a job. This is not your personal fiefdom to do as you please. This means that you can quite easily also lose any land you hold, should you be forced to resign, unable to secure the succession, or you may even give it up willingly if you so choose. You might want to put yourself in line for a better theme, for example. Owning land can, in other words, be seen as temporary. You can expect your house members to hold some land most of the time, but there will be times when you won't. If that happens, you can keep playing as a landless noble within the realm. Should the empire fall, however, you shall fall with it. I like, categorically, this direct and immediate connection. People keep asking, why did the Byzantine Empire not stop infighting when the Turks came knocking? And the answer is because, yes, the empire is important, but the standing of my family, I mean, come on, that's the real kind of circus, right? What do I care what happens in Anatolia? What I care for is what happens in Constantinople. They really seem to be nailing this here. My hope is that it's fun to lose a theme, right? That would be the ideal. Obviously, protecting the titles, no matter the cost, is kind of just what you do in CK3, that is kind of just what you do in CK, and doing something else is against the player's nature. But it would be cool if I could go, you know what, maybe I can even retire. I'm gonna retire from my theme in Thessaly, I'm bored there. I'm gonna pick up a theme, I'm gonna make myself the next candidate, then the next governor, for example, a theme that borders, I don't know, the Abbasid Caliphate. And once I border them, maybe I can wage wars against them. If you could hop around the realm, that would be super cool. I would love that. And well, at the very least, we already know that you can lose your title without anything happening to you. While not holding land, you are still a powerful political force and can take a lot of actions to claw your way to power. Unlike the more mobile adventurers, you are still very much a part of your realm, as you cannot simply pick up your things and leave. You will always retain access to your estate. More on that later. Landless nobles are made playable with a new type of title, the noble family title. This, I think, they already ran with those kind of titles in CK2 for Merchant Republics, right? Like, that is the exact, like, functioning setup, if I'm not wrong. This new title is a duchy tier title, typically held by the house head. You can draw comparisons to how mercenaries or holy orders are set up. They exist with a duchy tier title held by their respective leaders. There is an important caveat to mention here. This means that if you don't have a noble family title, you will be unable to play as a landless noble, which means game over. You will almost always be playing as the house head because of this. However, if you find yourself in the extremely rare case that you aren't, we've made the decision to create a cadet branch much easier for admin. As the player, you can take this at essentially any time if you aren't the house head. Doing so will give you a new noble family title, allowing you to keep playing even if you lose your land. I don't like this. So, I was hoping that my family estate really is my family estate. There were other examples here where people were like, hey, can't we just have multiple estates per family? And I can see this as well. I'm more thinking Imperator Rome there, right? Where you give property to the Imperator Rome families. Has a completely different function there, but the idea would be that, yeah, sure, this family could own estates in several areas, right? What I was hoping for is that, yes, the house head is the one making decisions about what buildings we build and so on for the family estate, but if I'm not the house head and I lose my title, I can just get parked in the family estate. Maybe I'll even cost the house head some money. I mean, I'm just lounging around, having a good time, having no title, no obligations, and so on and so forth, which would give them, and the player, if the player is the house head, some kind of motivation to get the useless cousin a title other than this will strengthen the family. If all of a sudden the emperor has to pay for my cousin, then well, that is one less mouth to feed for me. I would have really liked this, the idea that I will just, if I lose the title, I'm basically, so if I'm no longer house head, I'm basically forced to go on and indeed create the house head, like a new house head by doing a cadet branch. I find it a bit weird because all of a sudden, why would I ever, let's say I build up, yeah, no, I don't know, I really don't like it. Even the more I think about it, let's say I play it 200 years, I build up my family estate, then all of a sudden, boom, I stop being house head. You are telling me that you want me to create a new cadet branch with no upgrades in my family estate? Yeah, I have to do it because otherwise I go game over, right? But I don't like it. I feel like this could have been solved differently. Anyway, let's move on to the administrative government screen right here. This shows noble families. You can see this is the other side of the coin of this interface right here because this has the themes and then noble families, and this right here has the noble families. We're seeing House Komnenos under Vasilev's Manuel. We have House Kontostephanos and Angelos. Of course, important houses indeed. These right here I can already tell you are family attributes. We're going to get to that in due time as well. They have a family rating, and if they have a certain rating, they can become a powerful family. What we also have here, I would assume this button might be like get a claim on a title. This might be petition. It might be become a counselor, something like this, right? This right here, I'm absolutely not sure what that means. A law? Maybe change your own theme contract? Are there theme? I mean, there must be theme contracts, I guess. And then this right here is the legitimacy item. We already are learning in this dev diary. Let me just tell you this before we even get there. The themes do not have legitimacy. That mechanic does not exist for them because they are legitimate. They have been appointed by the emperor. The emperor has legitimacy. So I assume this is like bolster the emperor's legitimacy, and this is undermine him, something like that anyway. Right, this is everything that we need to know here. I assume this brings you to their family estate, and this right here maybe burn down their family estate, who knows. Powerful and dominant families. Noble families are sorted into normal, powerful, and dominant families. These designations are based on something called powerful family rating, and indicate each family's level of power within an admin realm. Think of powerful families as a who's who of the realm. If a powerful family manages to become dominant, they have, by and large, subdued the political milieu of the realm to their will. Should you so desire, you can manipulate and control an admin realm as the head of a dominant or powerful family without ever becoming the top leash. I like this. This is the right design intent, I think. Rather than having individual vassals playing a big role within the realm, it's the different houses, the most influential of which have a greater impact on the realm at large. This only makes sense if I do not actually spread my influence by expanding the immediate realm that I govern. I have to spread it throughout the apparatus that is the state, and obviously you do this as a family. So this is also, again, I agree with this. I think this sounds great. Powerful families remain so, regardless of the position of the househead, who may go from being a governor to landless and back again. With this, we aim to create a sense of stability among the many and frequent I don't know what that word even means, okay, don't worry about it. Vicissitudes of administrative realms. Becoming a powerful family entitles your house members to several benefits and tools. For example, only members of powerful families can use the depose and subsume governorship schemes. They get a flat discount to promoting candidates in the new succession type, discussed in our next dev diary, and are generally better at political schemes. It is also easier for them to be made co-emperor, which we will be discussing in a later dev diary. First of all, co-emperors do exist. Second of all, I'm completely at peace with a family that is established, that has some kind of collective clout, to get access to new schemes. I will always argue that when you reach a new level, like for example a new legacy perk point, that kind of stuff, I personally would always prefer gaining more actions, interactions, more opportunities, rather than just some percentage modifier. So I like this as well for sure. Any powerful family that is able to also control a significant part of the realm will become a dominant family. So you can control basically no land and maybe be powerful if you have enough resources, whatever, right? But you have to control land to become dominant. This happens when they control enough governorships to cover 25% of the realm's total realm size. So your family must control a fair amount of land in order to become dominant. A dominant family enjoys all the benefits accorded to a powerful family, but to a greater degree. Afforded to a powerful family. They are much more of a problem or nuisance for the liege. They have a much easier time becoming governors, for one thing, by significantly reducing the cost of investing in candidates, covered in detail next week. I wonder what that looks like, whether it's like a one-off payment you do, or whether it's a sustained payment, right? Like, for example, your men-at-arms, you do a one-off payment, but then you have to maintain them every single month, be that with prestige or with money, depending on what your government is. I would like it if, for example, to maintain my, cousin to be the candidate somewhere, I have to continuously pay into this rather than just do a series of one-off investments. They also have a much easier time requesting support from lesser families. Additionally, all members of a dominant family are even better at political schemes than other powerful families. Every family's rating also affects how likely the members of a house are to inherit the top liege's title. For example, becoming Emperor of Byzantium, as a portion of the rating is added to a candidate's score. It will be much easier to compete for the title with a high rating, or to keep it within your family if you already are Emperor. It's important to note that administrative realms don't have the concept of powerful vassals like other governments do. You can still have powerful vassals should you have vassals of other government types, as those will also be able to become powerful vassals as per usual. We're gonna talk about that in a bit as well. Administrative vassals, however, cannot. This is only relevant in the case where a feudal or clan vassal becomes a part of an admin realm. Right, now let's talk in greater detail about the powerful family rating. There can only be a handful of powerful families at any given time, 5 to be exact. The top liege's house is always considered powerful and does not take up one of those 5 spots. Houses are then sorted and ranked according to their rating. In order to become a powerful family, a house needs to have a rating above a certain threshold. This prevents small and seemingly insignificant houses from becoming powerful just because they are in the top 5, right? And then right here we have a breakdown of the way the rating works. Let's take a look at this. Do we see anything interesting here? 6.8 influence per month for... Who's this? For this guy? This is us, right? Yeah, for the Komnenos family. We are a powerful family. We're making 6.8 per month. That is interesting to keep in mind. Let's analyze this number. Living house members in realm 20. House heads level of influence +3. Okay, so... Oh, it's right. It's a level of influence. So very similar to piety and prestige, you have levels of influence, and I guess that just gives you a flat bonus right here. It's just 3. This is very little. Absolutely nothing. Estate is located in capital. This gives you a bonus, which has been a huge source of conversation in this thread in particular, because what is the incentive to not have your estate in the capital? We're going to get to that as well, and there is not really any incentive not to have it there, but we'll see how that actually plays in action. Obviously, I would like to, maybe if I get a big enough bonus, right, to a theme, they mentioned this as well, where my estate is, if I get a big enough bonus to their theme from my estate being there, then maybe I'm not going to have it in Constantinople, but this ranking seems so important that maybe I'll just always keep it in Constantinople to stay powerful or dominant no matter what. Then right here we also have landed house members and numbers of held governorships. These are obviously the biggest factor, makes perfect sense as well, which means, yes, you might end up not having any governorship for yourself, but you always want your family to have as many as possible. There really can't be any doubt about this. I wager that the way people will play this is they will basically be busy 24/7 securing more governorships for their family, if I had to guess, because that is the way to blob in the Eastern Roman Empire, since you can't do war and you can't really do marriage diplomacy because there is no inheritance, right? So yeah, the schemes really have to nail it. Seriously, I have to reiterate that. There are several factors that have an impact on a family's rating, right? We took a look at that right there. Other factors you can actively pursue is being part of your liege's council, where every position counts. If you can get other family members onto the council, the rating increases for each councillor, or you can pick up the Heart of the Family diplomacy perk, which grants a small but insignificant bonus. Fair enough. We already talked about that as we looked at the image. Let's talk about family attributes. To give each family some additional flavor, they have access to what we call a family attribute. It is a small set of bonuses that apply directly to all house members, as well as a separate bonus that only applies to their liege. A family's attribute is only active if and when they are considered a powerful family. Since there is a limited number of powerful families, the liege won't be able to stack these modifiers indefinitely, so you get 5 bonuses max if you are the emperor. Instead, we hope they serve, well, 5 plus your own, I guess. We hope they serve as an incentive to keep certain families around, making sure they remain a powerful family so that you don't lose out on the bonus they provide. Okay, dominant families are a bit special. Their house members get to benefit from their attribute, but the liege will not. There's a number of bonuses available. Let's take a look at this right here. You can see diplomatic, martial, staunch, intrigue, learned, then political, tax, army, tactical, confident, whatever. First of all, I hate this interface. This interface is so bad. Having this really long list and then all of this empty space right there, I really hate this. You will have to click through all of those and then remember which one you preferred the most so that you can double check them. Yeah, not a big fan. Now, the more important element, and my more important, I think, criticism here, goes directly towards the attributes themselves. The attributes exist to give the different families some added flavor, to give them some additional identity and character. Not all families are alike, and the attribute symbolizes what they are good at, or perhaps their origin. The AI won't change these on the fly, so when you are playing as the Emperor, you know what bonuses each family provides at all times. As a house head yourself, you are free to change the attribute at any time. There's no cost attached. You will activate a short cooldown before you can change it again, but that is it. I really don't like this, because all this is you stacking modifiers. And not even in a cool way. I asked, and it was basically said, I don't know, I have to, ask the team about this, but I asked, does this change AI behavior? If I have a confident schemer, in a position of being a powerful family, does that powerful family change how they act? Because maybe, yeah, sure, the bonus is cool, but do I really want to keep a confident schemer around? And the fact that the answer is, I have to check, which is fair enough, ultimately, but feels to me like that would have been really cool. Right now, the way this feels to me is me just stacking modifiers. I doubt that I will keep any powerful families that have slighted me around just for the modifiers, so from that angle, yeah, honestly, I don't know. This kind of feels tacked on. I'm not really in love with this. Obviously, I'm going to choose whatever I think is the best benefit, but there's not really any drawbacks, and that is about it. Nobody changes behavior, which is one of the coolest additions that they have done. And now that I think about it, this actually makes me even more negative about this. One of the coolest additions they've done is add the different AI vassal stances, where they are like, I'm a glory hound, I'm a court vassal, and so on and so forth. I would have hoped that this goes into this direction, where they go, hey, I'm interested in expanding the realm in this particular area, that kind of stuff. And I might go, okay, yeah, I'm going to help you because you're about, I don't know, to whoop some behind in Egypt. That sounds amazing to me. That doesn't seem to be a factor here at all. Again, for me, big missed opportunity, but okay, let's move on to spheres of influence. Clear reference to Victoria 3 right there. Content, of course, coming up in the next few days for that as well here on the channel. Influence is a brand new resource which represents your political capital and the sway you hold within administrative realms such as Byzantium. It's about your ability to manipulate others and leverage your political standing in order to achieve a favorable outcome. In many ways, influence is the tool that will make you successful, and gaining influence will be key to achieving your goals. Unlike other resources, influence is hard to come by in great quantities, and it has many varied uses. It is the lifeblood of an administrative realm. While a powerful emperor or high-ranking governor might be allowed to do what he wishes in theory, the reality is much more complex than that. The resource symbolizes how gracefully someone navigates the politics of the realm, and a truly powerful emperor will secure their rule, and might through clever use of influence, for example by securing army support or ousting troublesome governors. Army support is very interesting. I wonder whether we have always landless army ranks. So instead of becoming a landed governor, I can be a general, right? And this is not true, okay? I don't believe this one bit, but it would be, maybe it's true, I don't know. It would be so cool if I became a highly ranking general, and then I have to use my influence to gather more troops. The emperor gives me some troops. Maybe I got some friendships with governors, or my family rules somewhere and they give me more troops, and then I have an objective of achieving in a certain campaign. I don't know, free Mesopotamia. And if I do, I get a triumph, I get welcomed, I am a hero. That is just who I am at that point, right? That would be cool. Completely landless at that point, but whenever the emperor goes to war, it is actually me commanding the army. Oh, that would slap so hard. Okay, right, so that is influence. I have seen people say, so there's two vectors of criticism here. Some people are saying, okay, this is getting a bit much. There's a lot of resources. And I kind of agree with this. I get the angle, right? The extended vector of criticism from this, with which I do not agree, is that influence shouldn't exist. This should be done via money, via prestige, via piety. Influence will be the only tool from what we are seeing right here that will allow us to guesstimate how much can I protect this inheritance, for example. How much can other people do it? If I see a character with 5,000 gold coins, he could be using that for anything. It could be for buildings, for campaigns, for, I don't know, maybe for just drinking, for going into a brothel, that kind of stuff, right? If I see influence, I know that is the resource that they will be using for politics. So from that angle, I think influence is kind of necessary. I think it's kind of needed, because if you don't have it, what that means is this is unreadable. I will not know, is my position in danger? Is somebody else going to resource dump me? Because I can't see what resources they actually have, particularly for the purpose of playing politics. With influence, we can see it. So from my angle, I don't think influence is a bad addition. I just think you gotta be careful how far your sources and, of course, your usage cases are. Right here, we can also see the level of influence. I mentioned this previously already, but impotent, influential, persuasive, controlling, authoritative, and imperious. A character's level of influence measures their overall political power and reach. I assume these change how attractive you are for certain positions, for inheritance, maybe also for other people just agreeing to you. Because you can be very well known as a prestigious fella, right? But whether you are amazing at playing the politics game is a different question. So yeah, I like this. This is completely fine by me. Now let's talk about where you get influence from. And this is my favorite without a doubt, from the governor trait. To track just how much skill characters have after becoming a governor, we have implemented a new governor trait, flavored strategos here for Byzantium, otherwise known as governor. This trait offers tiered bonuses to monthly influence gain, among other things. So right now we are level 1, which level 1 will give us 25 trade experience is required. It gives us stewardship and it gives us influence. So it makes us better at being a steward, and it gives us directly influence as well. I really like this, because it already seems that way, that governors do not just scheme and do politics, but they also actually get stuff that lets them administer whatever is their governorate, which means there's something happening there that lets me very particularly push this trait further and further and further. And I really like the idea of this. I think the lived experience of being a governor, making me into a good governor and making me better at playing politics, that is the most interactive way that I can picture when it comes to gaining influence. Other than that, we also have a passive source right here with the Liege's Council. If we become one of the Liege's Councils, you can see right here, we get the normal benefits. We also get enemy political scheme potential goes down. Scheme potential, interesting. Monthly diplomacy experience, vassal opinion, and then influence +2 per month. That is pretty big. Then we got governor duties, that is where I came from. Governors in particular have some additional ways of acquiring influence. You are an administrator, first and foremost, meant to oversee and manage the land that you are appointed to. If you perform your duties well, you will be rewarded for it, primarily with influence, but more on this below. Then we got alliances. You can see right here, if we got alliances, we get a steady source because it shows that we're connected, right? Fair enough. I wonder whether alliances do anything else, because, like, we don't really wage war. I guess instead of helping me wage internal wars, this is what they do, right? They give me a massive source of influence that might be very beneficial. Then there will also be estate upgrades that actually give me influence right here. Now, the estates we're going to talk about a bit more as well later in the video. Yes, there is still a later, even almost 40 minutes into this video. You can see it right here. We have beautiful art style. We got different stuff. I gotta say, I really like the art style. I wish that our normal holdings were in this art style as well. I wish that if they're going to commit to this art style, that the tournament screen was also in this style. It's not, right? Is it? No, I don't think it is. Not like this anyway. Now, this is the mansion, and you can see it right here. That is the main building. It is on level 3. Number of internal upgrade slots +2. We're going to talk about that as we go. Each level of this building increasingly reduces the success chance of hostile raid estate schemes. That must have been the symbol that we saw earlier in the powerful family list. It gives us tax. It gives us influence, 2 per month. Although I guess this is already level 3, so pretty far down. And then we get influence from there. This right here is, forgive my voice right there, is, I think, an upgrade, right? Oh yeah, look at that. It's the same symbol right there. So this is just an upgrade to the mansion that then generates +4% monthly influence. That, of course, is big. The more absolute numbers you have that you can then equip with modifiers, the better will you be. Additionally, you can also gain influence from holding upgrades. You can see this right here. This is a Murex fishery. A thriving Murex fishing industry has been established along the Mediterranean coast. It provides a modest but steady income through the sale of harvested snails. This gives us 0.1 per month. It's only level 1, so I assume maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. Seems pretty good. Okay, this means, obviously, from a normal governorship, you will probably get income, I assume prestige, I assume more influence, and then via the buildings there, you will also be gaining influence. Okay, good to know. Spending influence is, of course, the other side of the coin. Right now, I will tell you, I think when it comes to gaining influence, I didn't see anything that was like frivolous, anything where I would go, oh, that is too easy, that is too much, or, you know, that isn't where that source should come from. I think we're looking at something that's completely fine in the context of this. If we take a closer look here at the governor flavor text as well, take a look at this. This trait can be leveled through actions that improves held counties or benefit the realm, such as completing contracts, governor duties, contracts, okay, constructing buildings, or picking certain options in events. So fundamentally, a very lived trait, and gaining influence seems to be a very lived, a very active experience as well. Like I said, the biggest worry that they need to deal with is that they are taking away the best, the most enjoyable tools from CK3 players and are saying, you will now only be scheming. Having some interactive stuff to do as you manage your realm is something you don't normally do. You don't go into your territory and go like, I will fix whatever contract is, right? You don't do that. You just build a building and that is it. You send your counselor, that's it. What they're doing here to make you gain influence seems quite nice to me. Now, let's talk about spending influence. You can, for example, demand a council position. Administrative vassals have the option to request a council position by spending influence. It will cost you a fair bit of influence, but there are ways to reduce the amount. You will also have the option to demand a council position with the use of a hook, which is significantly more cost-effective since you will gain some influence once you are on the council. I'm not against this, so, and you're going to see this as well as we continue through this. Somebody pointed this out. It feels like influence, in many ways, comes in where it once was a hook that mattered, which sucks, kind of. Because hooks are something that you gain in a very personal fashion, either through a scheme, you manufacture them, maybe you get told a story, right? A secret at a banquet, that kind of stuff. They're very personal, they're very tied to a character, and that makes you think about those characters. You can have the influence without ever talking to anybody, right? So I do think that that is a concern. You can see right here, if we demand this council position, it will cost 500 influence, but if the liege declines, I will get my influence back. I think you should only get like half your influence back, okay? I come on, that's like, there's no risk attached to this at all, to asking this, right? So the way I feel about it is maybe change that, and then, yeah, I like where we can gain stuff, but you're going to see it here with forced to join faction as well. I am worried how much it overlaps with hooks and how much better hooks are to make me feel something about some other character, because they either blackmail me, I blackmail them, and so on and so forth. Not having to rely solely on hooks, you can force other vassals to join your factions by spending influence. A handy tool when you just need a tiny bit of additional support for your claimant faction, so that you can push your claim for the throne. I find this one really weird, okay? So, we have this concern about the hooks and influence relationship, and the other one is, does the AI do this to me? Because there's no, they can reject this, right? Look at this. Strategos Leon is forced by you to join the installed Strategos Johannes on the Byzantine throne. They can't say no. They're going to be forced into it. They're going to be there. If the AI can do this to me, and then I'm in a faction, and then we go to war, I go to prison, I get blinded, ooh, that feels bad. If somebody that has a hook on me because I'm a cannibal forces me into a faction, now that's a different story, because if I say no, they reveal my secret. Either way, I will feel very, very bad about them. Not sure whether this is perfect here. Not a big fan of this one. Propose alliance. When proposing an alliance, you can spend your influence to make the target character more likely to accept. Seems very, very reasonable. Petitioning lieges, which is basically the same as in feudal, or at least it seems that way. Do they say anything new here? No. Okay, so instead of using prestige, it uses influence. I really hope that there are some cool new petitions. They are reworking some old events, some court events and all that kind of stuff they already talked about, right? I hope that we get some new petition stuff. Let's take a look, though, what we have here on the decision side of things. Restore Thessalonica. Wonder what that means. Looks like it's like a kingdom thing. Found Holy Order, petition the Vasilevs. Consecrate Bloodline, strengthen Bloodline, normal stuff. Found a new kingdom. We should never be eligible for this, right? Just vibe-wise, we should never be eligible for this at all. Governorship confirmation, I would interpret as probably the same as paying homage. Seems very similar to me. Commission icon, so that's very interesting. That's an orthodox thing. Embrace heresy, just happens through a button. Interesting. Establish silk production, okay. I assume this would also give you influence and level up your governor trade, right? Because this seems like you're doing something good for the realm. Gather faction support. I wonder what this is. I have no idea what that is. Ask for support. No idea what that is. It has the same... Does it mean anything? No. I think this just means it's a Byzantine decision. If I look at this, you see this? Yeah, maybe. Ask for support, commission artifact, commission legend artifact, and train for a tournament. So, nothing too much there, but quite interesting. Oh, and he is wearing... I think that's a new outfit, like the main body of what he is wearing there. We can also see that he actually holds every single county in his theme. Interesting. I wonder how common that is. Although he is over the limit. Okay. You can also bolster governance. You can put your influence to good use by aiding and improving your governance, while also granting you some opinion in the process. Okay, seems good. I wonder whether there aren't always better things, like putting other parts of my family into other themes, right, that I could do instead. But yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with this. They makes it so that they administer their realm better. I do wonder... Let's say I'm the Vasilevs. Does that really matter, like the individual governance of one particular governor? I have like 50 governors, right? What's the point of me buffing one guy for 90 influence? Almost feel like... I'm not sure how often I'm going to use this, but I like this. This is a direct connection to a different character. I hope that this stuff counts towards creating a friendship, creating rivalries, all that kind of stuff as well, because then we would have influence in the same role as hooks in the context where it just creates character narratives, right? Character stories, indeed. In general, I will say I'm kind of concerned about the faction stuff in particular. I'm kind of concerned about the balancing of this because, yes, I believe that it is important to have this resource to clearly communicate what can you do in the political sphere and what can others do in the political sphere. I like the sources for influence. I'm not sure that I exactly love where we can spend it. Now, let's talk about estates in particular. We have shown you a preview of estates in a previous dev diary, so you may already know what they look like. If you haven't seen them though, here's an estate located in Constantinople, no less in all of its glory. Before we look at that, make sure to realize that... Look at the background right here, right? So this clearly looks very different. They also posted an image in the thread of a different architecture style for an estate, so I assume they did this all around, right? Like for the entire map, basically, the same way that we have images and art for all that stuff. What do we have right here? We have Constantinople. You think this is actually an urban thing, or is it a Constantinople thing? Because I will say this is clearly the Theodosian Wall. This is clearly Hagia Sophia, I think. Anyway, maybe I'm wrong. So I would guess this is maybe Constantinople specific. I love this art style. I wish that baronies, that tournaments, that feasts, that all that kind of stuff also went into this direction. It looks cool. Having a unified art style there would definitely be cool as well. Now this is an estate level 4 market square, fermenting vats, monastery, guard lodgings. Okay, so that is what is going on here. Look at that. Look at that cat. That's a beautiful cat right there. Anyway, moving on. This is just where they're talking about the art. In an administrative realm, it's the families of the nobles that really matter, so their houses. Each househead will have access to an estate, which is a representation of the family's overall wealth and any small tracts of land they may own. While a noble family might not hold any governorship, they are still influential nobles that own a significant amount of real estate. The purpose of the estate is twofold. It gives you a power base that you can rely on at all times, acting as your home, and the place where your character resides when you don't have any other titles. Again, me having to found a cadet branch when it's like the year 1300, my actual estate is decked out, and then I need to start from zero for no reason other than that I can't reside on my uncle's estate. I don't think that's good. Secondly, it exists as a means of progression, one that you can tailor to suit your own needs and playstyle. Estates grants you access to a whole bunch of buildings and upgrades, providing you with various bonuses, unlocking new interactions or decisions, and improving your existing toolbox in various ways. It is, without a doubt, one of the primary sources of increasing your influence. These guard lodgings. Bodyguard aptitude. Househead can ask for knights through the request as househead interaction. Interesting. Ask for knights. So you actually send characters. That's cool, I like that. Each level of this building increasingly reduces the success chance of hostile raid estate schemes. They seem to be an omnipresent threat. Hostile raids and sieges are slightly less likely to take characters located in the estate as prisoners. So you can siege estates. Or is it just that when you siege a barony, you're also coincidentally sieging the estate? I'm not clear on this. Interesting. Anyway, that's the bonus from there. Estates can become quite powerful on their own. It's only the househead that may construct new buildings and upgrade existing ones, similar to how only the dynasty head can pick and unlock dynasty legacies. I am cool with this. I really want to reiterate this. I don't think this needs to change. I just think that when I go landless and I'm not the househead, uncle, let me live here, pay for me, maybe I will leave, find a new job, we'll find out later, okay? One of our primary goals is to provide you with plenty of options as to what you can build, but buildings should also have a certain degree of synergy with each other. As you consider your options and what to build, we want you to be on the lookout for how buildings and upgrades complement each other. There are two distinct types of improvements you can build within your estate. The first one are buildings. Buildings can be easily replaced as well if you ever build one and then want to build something else. Some buildings, but not all, have multiple branches where you can choose to specialize your buildings further. This I love. Huge fan of this. I really wish that normal buildings and baronies did the same thing. Or that, like, when I upgrade my keep, for example, right? So the actual holding, that I can choose this is very defensive. This is really great to deal with trade, yada, 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 right? That kind of stuff would be awesome. I would love this. Oh, this is great for, like, feasts. I would like upgrade paths like this. I'm big fan of this. Right now, this monastery, if we go down here, unlocks the commission icon decision. You think that's like a starting thing, or you think this comes with a monastery? Oh, that's so cool. I really like the art. Also makes tax, piety, and then a piety modifier as well. The shrine building and its different branches and levels, and then right here we have a large warehouse. The large warehouse, I think this is a granary. The househead can ask for domicile building support through the request as househead interaction. I assume this means if I'm the househead, I can ask other folks to pitch in and make my buildings better. Something like that. It also gives supply capacity, taxes, and building construction costs down by -15%. Oh, listen, I like the options, but I am worried that this is just gonna buff it even further. I was talking about it, I mean, before I record this video, I talked about this entire dev diary on the Discord. What I'm worried about, especially with the new start date, and especially with this estate existing outside of you also holding land, that 1178 is going to start and everybody's going to have infinite money and infinite influence and yada yada yada. If you've ever played a mod for CK3 that starts late in the timeline, you will have seen this as well. Everybody swims in money. Everybody can do whatever. Creating a title is going to be so easy because you have infinite money. I wonder that this is going to be the same thing. -15% building construction costs, that scales even through the ages, even through the tier of a building. That's incredibly strong. We'll see. Now, upgrades are something that you can do to buildings. The second type of improvements for estates are building upgrades. The mansion has a limited number of upgrade slots available, for example. You will have access to 2 slots from the get-go, and you will gain more slots as you upgrade your mansion. When your mansion is brought up to level 5, you will have no less than 10 upgrade slots to fill as you please. Upgrades can also have branching building paths, but most of the upgrades do not. They also tend to have fewer levels in total compared to buildings. Take a look at that right here. This mansion has upgrade paths, right? You get internal upgrade slots right there. Can we possibly see... Can't really see any upgrade paths. Oh no, here we can. This is the manor. And this manor has an education hall. Children educated in your court may gain a rank 5 education trait. Physician aptitude up, tutor salary cost down, aptitude up, and learning lifestyle experience up as well. You know what, I'm coming to the conclusion, and they don't say it here, so I'm not sure that this is in, but I think I would really like it if I, as the house head, first of all, I want to be able to live there even if I'm not the house head, but if I, as the house head, also am a governor, or even the emperor, I think what you get out of your estate should be diminished. Let's say 50%, screw it. Huge diminishing right there, right? And if you're landless, or if you have like a ton of your relatives living on the estate, administrating it, that should go up again. So that there is a balancing act around you making infinite money from your estate, and then also making infinite money from being the emperor, and so on and so forth. Yeah, because this is going to make people very powerful. Listen, don't get this wrong. This is money that feudal, that clan characters, and so on do not have access to. It will be impossible. I think especially late game. The balancing scares me for this patch. I'm going to be honest with you, because I like these estates. I like that different from CK2 feudal administrative gameplay. I no longer need to be worried about losing a title. We already kind of had this in the merchant republics, but you didn't really do much if you didn't own any title outside of your palazzo, which seems to be different here. And this would make it so that sometimes I might want to go without any title. I might be cool with that. I might just go, yeah, whatever. You know what? I don't want this theme. I'm going to apply to a different theme later. I'm cool with that. That works for me perfectly. Look at this guy, by the way. Nice mantle right there. This right here shows us the wine room. Unlocks the wine selection activity option for the feast activity. I love it when they give us new options for certain decisions. A small wine pressing facility. Influence gained from wine room building line plus 50%. Tax plus 1.2. Okay, this is level 6. But this is one building. Okay, it's not an upgrade for a building. So this is one building that when it's finished gives us 1.2 per month. The balancing here does not yet matter. Like, these are not final numbers, but there's going to be a lot of numbers coming our way. That could be worrying. Now, anyway, modding here, very moddable, yada yada. You know the drill. That is how they program this stuff. I do wonder, with the administrative government, is that going to be in the free patch? I looked. I don't know whether this is free. Because obviously the government being free would be great for modding, for people that don't own any of the DLC, but I mean, we'll see, right? Anyway, so my criticisms for the content that we have seen here today are very, very clear to me. I'm deeply disappointed. I cannot phrase it in any other way. That we are now very clearly set on a path, in my eyes anyway, where we are never going to see modular governments in CK3. Nomads will be their own world. Nomads aren't their own world. It's just a different form of tribal game. Like, this should be a fluent transition. Tribal folks can have feudal characteristics. Feudal folks can have administrative characteristics. We have the ministeriales, for example. Really hate that. That is off the table now, apparently. We're back to the CK2 model where we're just getting unique governments that to transition between is difficult. You can do it. They're saying as much. But yeah, other than that, I like influence. I think there's a lot of upsides to having its own currency. I think that is fine. The estates look nice. I think much of the art, the interface, the clothing, all that stuff looks nice as well. What concerns me again is mostly when we come down to the gameplay loop being completely dismantled, because you cannot wage war, you cannot marry, at least not internally. Not sure what happens if I stand to inherit a feudal territory elsewhere, right? If I marry into a feudal family somewhere. But yeah, all that stuff, I do not, like, that concerns me deeply, because we're looking at a situation where ultimately that means most of the gameplay loop that we take for granted, that our brains are focusing on, is just gone. The scheme rework really needs to do a lot of heavy lifting. The politics of the Empire needs to do a lot of heavy lifting. So basically, the last thing that concerns me there is down to the question of what happens if I'm a feudal fella and I'm a vassal of an administrative firm. We know this works. We know this does exist. We also know that somehow I can be forced to convert to admin. I hope that that is done well, but we'll see. The other element of this is I am feudal. It is confirmed I do not have access to influence. So there's no mixing and matching. Again, I'm very desolate, but there we are. Can I still wage war against administrative vassals? Because I shouldn't be able to do that. Because if the King of Hungary swears fealty to the Byzantine Empire and then starts gobbling up vassals over and over again and claims those titles now as hereditary, that's a direct attack at the domain of the emperor. That shouldn't be working, right? If they can't wage war, though, we now have a problem, because that vassal, as long as they're feudal, doesn't have any vector to interact with other vassals. They just don't. They have nothing, because they don't have influence. They cannot interact with those political schemes. In my perfect world, so obviously the only answer here is that if the King of Hungary joins the Byzantine Empire, he has to turn administrative, right? Which I find not that great. In my ideal world, because, again, why would that happen? We had some light kind of hegemony of the Byzantine Empire over plenty of feudal territories without them stopping being feudal. What really concerns me here is, in my ideal world, the way it would go is that there's 2 layers of being a vassal to the Byzantine Empire or to any administrative realm, and those layers are administrative and then everybody else. If Hungary and Croatia are both vassals of the Byzantine Empire and they attack each other, that's like an internal wars between them, who cares? If Hungary attacks Thessaly, that's the emperor's land. The emperor's gonna come knocking and say, knock that off, that's my land. That isn't my ideal world. But we know we don't have tributaries. We know tributaries are not coming in this update, so yeah. Listen, I'm deeply disappointed. And what I'm seeing here has a lot of edge cases that worry me. I hope that the next week's dev diary can take my worries away there, but right now I'm like, I see a lot of edge cases. I'm worried about the gameplay loop that we're getting with the administrative gameplay. I do like estates. I think they're cool. I think estates sounds neat. I hope that eventually we're going to get something like feudals being able to build a family seat, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm mixed. I'm very much mixed about what we've seen right here. I hope that that kind of alleviates itself later. Let me know what you think about the individual elements and about my overall kind of conclusion here. I will leave you right here, and I'll see you later, alligator.